Welcome to What is Going Om, for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on Om Times flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandy Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandy Sedgbeer.
Hello, welcome. For many in the spiritual arena, 1987, the year of the harmonic convergence, is regarded as an important milestone year in awakening. Then, as the internet's takeover of the global communication landscape rocketed from carrying just 1% of telecommunications in 1993 to 50% just 7 years later, it was clear that spirituality was making serious progress on its journey to becoming mainstream. It's hard to believe that a quarter of a century has passed since then, or that today the business of spirituality has become a very lucrative industry. Back in the mid-90s, our guest today, spiritual teacher, author and channel Steve Rother, was working quite happily as a general contractor with little more than a passing interest in spirituality, when he suddenly started waking up, receiving messages from a group of angels known as the Group. Since then, he's presented interactive training and seminars in 23 countries, published 7 books translated into 18 languages, been invited to present 5 times at the United Nations on 2 continents, and is the only presenter to have taught a class on channeling to the UN staff. He coined the term light worker, and he nurtured the spiritual awakening of thousands of people worldwide. And chances are, very little of that could have happened without the internet and the digitalization of communications. Steve Rother joins me today to share his perspective on spirituality and its journey back then, now, and in the future, and its connection with the internet. Steve Rother, welcome.
Thank you, Sandy. Welcome. Glad to be here today.
Spirituality means many things to many people.
Yes,
it's an exploration, a journey, a personal and sacred practice, a mission, and we cannot deny it. Today, it's a big business. What does the word mean to you?
Well, the word means to me that we're all spirits, and that we the way the group puts it to me is that we are humans pretending, or we're spirits pretending to be human. And in that aspect, all of our teachings and everything that we do here at Espavo have to do with basically helping people understand and work with their spirit, work with that part of themselves, which is infinite, which is perfect, which has a different aspect than the physical attributes that we typically see. And it's fascinating that we're doing this on the technology, because I am I'm a nerd from way back. So well before I started this.
I remember when I first met you, we talked about, wouldn't it be great if you could actually do a broadcast or a show on the internet? And it looked almost impossible back then.
Well, back then it was very difficult. It was very challenging. We had very low technology as far as what we have today and so forth. But we started originally with what we call a video chat room, because there was actually a company that had a video chat room. So we were able to go video back in 1996, which was absolutely crazy. But we didn't stay there long. We went into audio very quickly and started doing a lot of things there, because the people that were putting out the video, I think they decided they had to start charging a lot of money for it. So even everything that they were offering for free suddenly was quite expensive. But over the years, we have just one after the other. You've watched it. You've been a part of it.
I've been a part of it, indeed. You know, it's interesting that, I first went on the internet in 1999. And I dived very deeply into it. And it was, it coincided with my arrival in America and the launch of the magazine Planet Lightworker, which you originally started and then asked me to take over. Back then, the internet was pretty much seen as benign. Its goal was to connect us, to make, to help the world connect everybody, get together, no problems. Now technology is being used as a weapon.
That's correct.
To
That's
disempower,
exactly correct.
disconnect people. It's, it's designed to divide us now, hypnotize us, hijack our minds and sway our opinions. So it's become a lethal weapon. What do you think has happened to change all that?
It absolutely has.
The proliferation of it?
Well, part of it's just human nature, and part of it's the technological advances. You may remember, and by the way, light worker, I did not coin that word. That was coined from a dear friend of mine, Lee Carroll, who actually coined. I'm not even sure he coined it, but I picked it up from him. Let me put it that way. So I would give him credit for coining that word.
You did take it and make it.
We did use lightworker.com for a number of years. We were known as the Lightworker family and so forth globally, all the places we traveled. We got into a little challenge with MGM Studios. Basically wanted that word, so they were anyway, I don't want to get into all the details of it, but we had to change our name at one point, which was very difficult to do, very challenging to do. But yes, light workers, we still call people light workers because that's what they've done. They make a commitment to do something in the light, to better humanity some way, to bring something to the table. And we call those light workers.
Yeah. But it was such an innocent time back then. People were connecting, as you said, chat rooms proliferated, people were welcomed, they were curious, they were eager, and they were excited to find and share ideas with like-minded people.
Correct. And we did that in lightworker.com. We first opened lightworker.com in 1998, so just before you got here to the United States. And we started our nonprofit at that time, and was able to really connect with a lot of people. There was a very magical seminar that we did in Laguna Hills. You were there. It's the first time I met you, but we also met two of our other board members all at that one instance. And it was a very small seminar. I think we were less than 35 people. So it was just a very magical time. And you could tell that we were being brought together for a purpose. You could see that there was a lot more going on with that. And we evolved in there. We had chat rooms, we had message boards that we worked with. We did have some challenges with what we call trolls today, wanting to break in, wanting to,
not many.
Yeah, we had a few challenges with it. And then pretty soon along comes Facebook in the early 2000s. And basically took over all that process. So we said, good, they can deal with it. Now they're dealing with it in quite a different way. And that's part of where our challenge comes from. We've evolved the technology. We don't know what we're doing on the internet, but it's really important to keep in mind, anytime you're doing something for free, you are the product. They're taking your information, they're selling that information, they're using that information in ways to either sell you something or to influence you in some way. And that has just really taken over the internet in unbelievable ways. Unbelievable.
Well, I think that, people have discovered that they can use the internet in so many ways, and they can make an awful lot of money through it.
That's true.
And, and with it, what has changed is people's attitudes to everything. I mean, from where I sit, the openness of people getting excited about waking up and looking for their tribe, their community, has gone. And what we have now is, whatever you say, you stand a chance of being trolled. You stand a chance of, receiving a lot of flack, a lot of hate mail. What has made people so angry? I mean, what's happened to spirituality? As it's become a business, there's this whole other side to it.
There's an anonymity when you post on the internet. You can be anonymous until you hit that enter button. So there is an anonymity which causes some of the challenge. People want to project what we call their bodysuit, the avatar that they're using, basically, what they think they're presenting to the world. And it becomes really challenging because of that anonymity. That is what's starting to change. We have really good hopes for Web 3.0. It is basically starting out. It's just in its infancy stages right now. But the gentleman who actually created all of our IP addresses, all of the opportunity, which is basically what we call the World Wide Web, not the internet. The internet was different, but the World Wide Web of being able to connect everybody through simple domain name translations and things of that nature have changed everything. And it has really taken on a different level. He's very frustrated at what's taken place because of all the collection of data. We basically don't have control over that. Web 3.0 is set up differently to give you much more control over who has your data and who can keep it. It is starting out. It's just barely starting out. It's got a long ways to go, but we have great hopes that the technology can help turn and change a lot of things.
But it will never go back to...
No, we never go back. We never put the genie back in the bottle, do we? It never happens.
No, we will never do that.
The biggest change we're seeing right now, there's three things that the group is talking a lot about. AI, of course, is one of them. It's changing our world every single day. It's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, we're going to have people, we're going to have bad users who are going to use it unintentionally. But right behind it, we have quantum computing. And those quantum computers are being advanced every single day. They run on a whole different system, and they can do things at thousands of times faster than any computer that we have today. So that's coming up in the advances. And again, it's going to change humanity more than the original computers did. It's going to shift everything.
I just read an article today about Google's latest announcement that, the search engines are all going to be AI. And I read a story about a company that made a lot of money and became very successful and offered a great service on the internet for several years. And they followed all of Google's suggestions and the rules. And then Google started changing its algorithms, and gradually the traffic to their website diminished. Suddenly they have to lay off staff. When they approached Google about this, Google just said, oh no, we make changes according to what we think is best for people. So, Google plays God, right?
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
And this company is now out of business. And they talk about, the AI is going to help us. It's going to help them a lot more because now they don't need as many staff. Now their profits increase, right?
You're seeing everybody do this. I was approached the other day to put AI as a help desk. In other words, if people had help desk on my computer, on my website, they could fill out a form which AI would answer immediately from pre-populated things that I've given it and answers that I've given it. That is taking over the planet. And I'll tell you, I'm never going to do that. But we're seeing AI everywhere now. It's really difficult. I have challenges with Facebook. Facebook has charges for ads we didn't run, all sorts of things. They've shut down my ad account several times because of this. But there's no one you can talk to. I'm absolutely convinced that from the emails that I get back from all these complaints, they all say exactly the same wording. I'm convinced that we're dealing with either AI or dealing with simply robotics and computers.
So now what we're seeing is, the internet made spirituality, popular, helped take it mainstream.
Right.
And over the years, what we're seeing, all of the characteristics that we regard as being spiritual, compassion, kindness, interaction, care, etc., empathy, are being taken away from us. They're being taken away from us because we have no connection.
That's true.
As you just said, you call a company, you're talking to a bot. You try to get some information, some help online. They want your money, but they do not want to spend any money helping you. Instead, many of them will say, oh, well, all of you users can go and start your own board and you can help each other.
Right.
I mean, so we're watching all of these, ethics, morals, all of these values that we've treasured for so long and are supposed to be, the foundational values of spirituality are disappearing because of the internet.
That's true. There's very little room for that in the way that things working now. I'll go back to Google's original idea, because they made very clear what they were trying to do and what they were doing with the information that they were taking from us every time we signed up for a free Google account or something of that nature. They basically use that information to try and filter ads that only we want. Now, at first glance, that sounds wonderful. Oh, I'm not going to be bothered with all these other ads on different websites. But if you've ever searched for something unusual, and then for 3 weeks later, you see it on all these websites popping up, that's Google. Now, Google also takes that into YouTube, because what happens in YouTube, you have what we call rabbit holes. They know what you want, and they give you all these opportunities that you have a very high chance of clicking on. Again, in the beginning, it sounds wonderful, but what you're doing is building a house of mirrors. You never see one, you only see one side of a point.
Yes.
You live in the UK, I live in Las Vegas. If I ask a question here from Google, you'll get a different answer than I will.
Yeah.
Because of what you put in there before, it knows who it's talking to, it knows what you're expecting, and it will alter the answer to what you expect rather than some erroneous truth that they're trying to find. And we've really lost our way with that. There's a lot of people getting information where they should not be getting information, plain and simple. Even social media builds you a house of mirrors. You don't like what somebody's saying on your social media, you kick them out. You basically end up with a whole bunch of people that think the same way you do. And that makes it very challenging.
Yeah. So tell me, what do the group say about this?
Well, they say three aspects of it. We talked about two. We talked about AI. We talked about the quantum computing coming. Not here yet. It's coming. The third aspect that they're really watching carefully is hacking. They actually say that the United States is under massive attacks right now, and has been for probably the last 6 to 8 months. We're getting it from China. We're getting it from Russia, obviously. Russia's been interested in our stuff for a long time, so they've been hacking into us for quite some time. But we recently found out, only about 3 weeks ago, Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI here in the United States, came before Congress and told Congress that China is deep within many of our intricate systems and that they had hacked into all sorts of things. They hacked it into our telephone systems. They've hacked into our communication systems. They've hacked into transportation systems. They've hacked into simple things like traffic control, other things of that nature. Why are they there? And then he came back about 3 weeks later and said, we got it all. We cleaned it all up. Well, I hate to tell you, but that's not possible to clean that much up in that time. They're trying to calm people down. But if you work with technology, anything, even if you don't work with technology, you're seeing massive things that just aren't working. Sometimes you'll go to do something and you'll look up the way to do it and it won't work because they've changed it. They had to change it. I run a website. The website we run gets updates on some of the plugins and some of the things we use. I am getting massive amounts of those. We used to get maybe 5 a month. We're getting more like 10 a day. And no one is saying why they're updating their things. They give their reasons, we fix this, we fix that. But the reality is we're under attack. Now, what are they going to do? Are they trying to make our planes crash? Are they trying to shut off our communications? No, they're smarter than that. They're trying to influence us. And a lot of this has to do with the election that's coming up here in the United States. Now, a lot of it has to do with the election. A lot of it has to do with their own intent. If we start stopping China from taking over Taiwan, which they're very interested in doing, they're just running things right now. If we start to do that, they have capabilities of coming into our systems and altering them, which really confuses. Now, the interesting part about this is here, we in the United States started the internet. We built the internet. We created the internet. And we also created hacking. We were the first ones to actually hack somebody else.
Payback.
Yeah. So hacking has become the new war. War has moved online and nobody knows it. That's the part to be watching, because all this influence stuff that we're seeing is working for many people. We're seeing many people do things and start to believe things they normally would not believe because they simply don't have the exposure to what's really taking place. And
but this is all happening here, right? In this reality, in a 3D world.
Right.
You know, if you look at this from the perspective of us being, you know, spiritual beings having a human experience, what does all this mean? You know,
it means
why
that
is it happening?
it means that we need to step up. We don't need to live here. We don't need to deal with this stuff on a daily basis. We can step up into a higher vibrational status. You can call it the fifth dimension if you want. The group actually said we've stepped into the fifth dimension years ago, but we're still using third dimensional techniques inside the fifth dimension. We haven't learned.
Third dimensional mindset too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what our work is to share with people what it's like in a different realm, to what it's like to take your mind off of things, to empower you in different ways. We're not going to solve political problems. That's not our job. That's part of what's going on. But you asked about the internet and what's taking place, and we really want to cover that because we've been talking about that in our podcast almost every episode that we do, the Backstory podcast. So we've been talking a lot about that because the group wants people to know. They want people to know that they're being watched. Here in the United States, we know that we have close to 10,000 points of data on every single person. They know your favorite type of soap that you use in the bathroom. They know what you buy. They know all these things. Why? Because you've been giving it to them. You've been doing things like honey or getting discounts on things because you give them your email address and they get to look at all the things you buy. Real simple. You've given them permission to collect all this data. It's not illegal. But what happens is they can target exactly who they're trying to address. And that has become the new business. Microsoft just not too recently, but about a year ago, one of their, I hope he's still one of the higher ups in Microsoft, but he basically said, you know, we've got Windows 11 and we're giving it away to anybody who has Windows 10. And somebody asked, why are you doing that? You could be making a lot of money by selling Windows 11. And he basically said, well, you know, we're not really in the software business anymore. We're in the data business. And that's exactly right. They're there to collect.
Everybody's in the data business.
And if you try to run Windows today without signing into a Microsoft account, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's taking place.
But we are, all of us, consciously or unconsciously, are complicit in this.
Yes.
We have allowed this to happen. We have allowed ourselves to be hypnotized, to be lured, to be seduced. You know, when you think about phones and when we started getting the original flip phones, and it was great, you know, you were able to maybe do a text and a call. That was it.
Right.
Now you can do pretty much everything. And we see the shadow side of that.
Yes,
we were lured in. So, you know, what does this say about us? You know, and our ability.
We have needs. We have frustrated people. And that's the part we need to address. Why are they moving in this way? Why are we doing this? What is taking place? Why can people believe things that they normally wouldn't believe? It was Voltaire. He had one of my favorite sayings. He basically said, if we can make you believe absurdities, we can make you do atrocities. And he's absolutely right. We're seeing it play out on a daily basis right now. Because people are frustrated. What they were doing isn't working for them. They're having difficulty supporting their families, and that's something that used to support their families really well. We're seeing a lot of things that are changing pretty radically. And the group blames most of it on the wealth gap that we have between the rich getting richer all the time. And they basically said that's what these elections have been. The last 3 elections have been about the people versus the money. And it's an interesting way to look at it. Not about parties. It's about just about people. Who's going to rule? Who's going to take charge? And in a democracy, that's wide open.
Well, on the one hand, you've got billions and billions and billions of dollars or pounds or whatever, the money side. And on the other, you've got millions of people.
Correct.
Who's going to win? We're going to take a short break and we'll come back to this and speak a little bit more about that. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, and my guest today is spiritual teacher, author and channel Steve Rother. And we're talking about spirituality and the role that technology and the internet have, are, and will continue to have in shaping the spiritual landscape for humanity. So we'll be back with more from Steve Rother after this break. Stay tuned.
Om Times TV.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times flagship radio show, What is Going On? And as an author, editor and 13 times book judge who's read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors, I'm constantly asked what's really worth reading and what's not. So I created the No BS Spiritual Book Club to help you save time and money by picking the brains of discerning names who have walked this path before you. There's no catch, no fees and no BS, just an ever-growing library of 10 best spiritual book lists from some of your favourite authors and teachers, plus free book excerpts, audios and video interviews with people like Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., David G., Lee Harris, Mark Nepo and more. From well-known classics to hidden gems you've never heard of, it's the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to enlighten your journey of self-discovery. So why not join the club? Get inspired and save money at the nobsspiritualbookclub.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Everything that we do, we can do in a contemplative manner. Through the art of contemplation, you can use the gene keys in a really powerful way. Gene Keys is basically the code book of life. In the Gene Keys, the book is made up of these three levels: shadows, gifts, and siddhis. And the journey is through those three levels, kind of unpicking of the shadow states, the releasing of the gifts, and then the embodying of this higher consciousness called the siddhi. And the siddhis are very exalted words. And it's not like we kind of suddenly are all these exalted Christ-like beings, but we have flashes and illuminations along the journey. And the more we get stuck into the journey, the more illumination comes to us, because the more we're releasing the light from in these codes inside our DNA. So all those revelations are inside us. So the contemplative way is the inner way.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Steve Rother, Money versus the People. You know, I could see a great documentary here, or a great book. So say more about that. I mean, we all know that you know, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. There's very little in the middle anymore because it's all been sucked up. And it seems that we are hell-bent on continuing, you know,
That's
down
true.
that road.
That's true. We're heading in that direction where we constantly end up going toward the money. And I don't want to make it sound like one's good and one's bad. We need money influence in our systems. We absolutely need to take care of our businesses. We need to take care of things that generate money like that. So that's sort of part of it. But from the higher spiritual perspective, we have a huge gap. And the gap is creating frustration, which is bringing about populism. When somebody can stand up and those who speak the loudest, those who get the most response, basically take office. That has been happening all over the globe. And part of the reason for that, according to the group, is very simply that we have this huge wealth gap. And we're going to talk about this for a little bit because this is an important part of what the group's been talking about. But I also want to cover the future because I really do believe we have a lot going on there with that. But you're absolutely right. The wealth gap is causing all sorts of problems. And the wealthy people, you know, it's interesting because I've watched people get wealthy, and it's fascinating to see. They're usually very progressive when they first start out. They'll take risks. They'll do all sorts of things. When they get wealthy, they automatically become conservative. They automatically start trying to conserve their wealth and protect themselves in different ways rather than take risk, rather than do the things that they did that got them there. It's really a fascinating thing to watch.
I had a conversation with a former .com, you know, millionaire, and I asked him, why is it that for certain, you know, most of them, the rich people, it's never enough. Whatever they've got
Right.
is never enough. And he said basically because they begin to live in fear, and they feel that having more will take away that fear. The more they have, the more fear they're generating, you know. And what does that say about humanity? What does that say about human beings?
I think what we've done here is because of all the compression, because of all the frustration from lots of good reasons, but that's one of them. Any fluctuation, we had some problems with inflation recently. Those are taking center stage because of the fact that people are having difficulty paying bills or having difficulty doing some of the things they want to do. They were affected very quickly with that. That has a lot to do with the wealth gap. After World War II, we had the baby boom generation, which came in. Everybody was getting not wealthy, but moving. We had a solid middle class that people could afford their homes. They could buy new homes. They could buy bigger homes. It was a beautiful way to live. That's the area that I grew up in. And the reality is all of that has changed very drastically. We have more people in their 30s and 40s that are living at home. That has become commonality. We don't even think about it. We're seeing different places throughout the world that are not having children. The reality is they're not falling in love. They're not meeting each other. They're so isolated. And part of that has to do with the fact that we have our worlds on our cell phones. We literally do it in different ways, and we isolate ourselves many times from just giving hugs and doing some of the things that we would normally do.
Disconnecting ourselves from everything that's important in order to remain connected to that.
Exactly.
To information, and that's all it is information.
That's it. That's it.
So
I don't put it down. I mean, I make my living doing this too, doing online seminars and online work as well. So we're all part of it. But it's really fascinating to watch the larger aspect of how this is really playing out with the money versus the needs of the people. Because people all the time are sacrificing their needs in order to go with the money.
What is driving? I mean, on a whole other level, you know, what is driving this? What is happening to humanity? Are we devolving? Everyone says we are evolving, but
no, I actually think we're actually evolving. I think we're actually moving up. What happens here when we move up very quickly, which is what we've been doing the last several years, if you look at our technology and how our technology has incredibly, we used to have a rule that every 7 years or every 2 years, the speed of computers would double. That's out the window. This is not, we're not waiting for anything now. Microsoft just released the first computer that has AI on the computer, not in the cloud. You don't have to be connected to do it. It's going to be in our cell phones too. So we're seeing massive advances as we evolve. Different things show up, different things as in this level of existence, different things show up than down here. And as we mentioned, things become more difficult and we become more separated. So we get frustrated and we start throwing out the old, oh, this isn't working anymore. Let's bring something new in. Let's try something new. You're seeing democracies leave a lot of different places. You're seeing it happen. We were just talking before we started here about Brazil. Brazil is one of the successful places that have been able to recoup their whole energy of where they're going and how they work with that. Other places have not, including the United States. So it's gonna evolve pretty quick and move pretty quick. Now, what about us? What is the case? Were we trapped in this world? No, we're not. That's the good part about this. We can step into fifth dimensional living, where we'll still experience some of these problems, but they're not going to take forefront. It's very simple. We can live in a higher vibration. We draw new things around us. We draw the things we need. And we also draw that connection back into our lives. It's not possible to fully step into the fifth dimension on the internet.
Well, before we kind of talk about that, I want to ask you a question about transhumanism and digital divinity, because, you know, I've been reading a lot that as digital technology continues to influence our lives, a lot of transhumanists are viewing it, you know, viewing digital technology as like godlike entities. I mean, is this something that is going to happen or not? Is this something that we are going to embrace or reject?
I think it's going to happen. The question is whether we're going to embrace it. I think you've got two questions there, and I think they have different answers. We're still out about what's going to be embraced. We are these massive pendulums. We swing very far to one side until we can't take it anymore, and then we swing back the other way. And the idea is the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's not on the far extremes of any of this. Well, we're on a pretty far extreme of that pendulum swinging right now. We hope that that will start swinging back toward the middle and be able to balance both sides. Both sides have needs, both sides. You know, that's the interesting thing about all this political stuff. If we talk about politics today here in the United States, one side is good and one side is bad. No matter what side you're on, that's the way it's presented. There's no middle ground. We cannot function even in our Congress because they don't talk to each other. They don't go across the aisle anymore. That is huge. And that is causing all sorts of challenges. Again, not just in the United States, globally. We're seeing this take place on a global basis. And that's part of the separation that we're allowing to happen. If we start connecting ourselves and doing some of the very simple things that we can do, we talk about these exercises all the time in our Lightmaster group, our weekly group that comes together online. And we give them ideas and channeled information about ways that we can live and things that we can do. Sometimes there are simple things. You know, we just did a whole Lightmaster on smiling, the effect of your vagus nerve has when you smile and how you can send out vibrations that way. The group, I didn't know it was coming, but in Lightmaster, we don't always tell you exactly what we're going to be talking about. We turn the group loose to kind of talk about what they want to talk about. But there are ways of living and incorporating parts of the higher vibration of what I'm calling the fifth dimension into your daily life. And the more that you can do that, the less that these things bother you. You'll see them move, you'll see the pendulum swing, but it won't take all your energy.
Is the pendulum going to get a hefty shove in the right direction from our galactic
I hope so.
compatriots?
I hope so. That is one of the things that are here. And from what the group has been telling me about this, they're not here to take us over. The reality is they've been here all along. We have 6 parental
We're
races.
talking about ETs.
Yeah, I'm talking about ETs.
Yes.
Right. They've been here all along. They've got the technology to travel dimensionally. So they've got technology that's way beyond ours. If they wanted to take us over, they would have done it a long time ago. I think they're there because they want to see this experiment continue and not be sidetracked. That's part of what I'm seeing is showing up.
What experiment?
The experiment of humanity, the experiment of a free choice planet. We were the only one. We were the only one that had no predetermination on it. We made up all these things that we could follow. We've created them over and over. We used to worship the sun because it created things. And the more that we worship the sun, the more it would work in our favor. We are creator beings ourselves. So what we tend to put our power in does seem to work. The question is, can we put it in us instead of our systems?
Do we have more creative power as human beings than
Much
our
more.
ET parents or relatives, so to speak?
Much more. Much more. That's what this whole experiment of planet Earth was about. The whole experiment of humanity was to create beings that could evolve. We started back in the, if you want to keep going back, we can go back to the Neanderthals. We can go back to a lot of things that we know. It actually goes much further back, according to the group, than we are aware. But we've been around a lot longer than we have, probably closer to 10,000 years, which was the Holocene. No variation of temperature more than 1 degree. We've had 10,000 years to evolve. And all that's changed now. We're into a different well. We're past the 1 degree mark. The Holocene has changed as a result of the Holocene is over with. We're coming out of an ice age. That's the interesting part. So we've got a lot of things that are taking place on a natural basis, and yet humanity is sitting here struggling with these things, letting these things happen. If we can just step up into this higher vibrational state and incorporate parts of that in our world, things start working. It's very magical. Or things we were worried about aren't important anymore. That's
well. What help are our galactic friends giving us?
Well, there's a lot of things they're giving us. They're very concerned about the Earth. The Earth herself is in very difficult challenges. Like I said, we're coming out of an ice age. That's normal geology. We're at the end of an ice age, so the world is getting hotter. We did have that beautiful 10,000 year period where humans could evolve very quickly, and we did, but we're also out of the Holocene. The Holocene is over now. So we're in a place where we're advancing very rapidly. We've got potentials coming. We've got a potential coming of a mini ice age coming fairly soon. It showed up in the 20s back in Europe quite a bit, where we had just extreme cold in part of that swing. So we've got a lot of things that are working together to take us to a different level. But if we can raise our vibration of where we're living on a daily basis, then all these things start changing. And even though we have massive change going on, it doesn't affect you the same way. And part of what the group has been talking about, they've been talking about this place they call the Esayoto, which is simply a vibrational range where we can kind of go, it's not going home. We don't have to die. We don't have to leave our bodies, anything of that nature. But we can basically step into a higher vibrational level and learn to live here as much as possible. Then when we deal with our third dimensional reality, which we're still creating because we are creator beings, we wake up in the morning, we put on the same clothes we had the night before. We dress the same way. We try to do the same things. And all of that is really part of our creator beings. So if we look behind us, all the big important things in your life that you thought were difficult, the reality is you created those. And if you can take responsibility for that, you can see the incredible gifts that came as a result of having those difficulties. So we change perception. We start living in a higher vibration. We start exercising that vibration in a number of ways. We do a lot of activations. We do a lot of meditation type things. So doing that integrates a larger aspect for all of us. And
it seems to be, easily said. not so easily done. When we look at the hold, the stranglehold that digital information, phones, etc., technology has on people, you know, they're already asleep. They're already hypnotized. They don't know what is happening to, and we look at what's happening to our children, where those, you know, poor beings don't even anymore know how to even stop and reflect, because they're governed by this, you know, that is constantly taking their attention away from everything. So, you know, when you look at all of that, you think it's going to take a hell of a lot to get people out of that place and raising their frequency.
Well, and we will. I don't believe that our space brothers and sisters, and that's a really big concept to think about. I mean, you know, if you just talked about humans, there's so many different types of humans and different places that they've grown up and different belief systems that they carry. So it's difficult to do that when we talk about 4 other races of beings. There's good ones, there's bad ones, there's all sorts of indifferent ones that have different attributes. But we had some rules laid down here on planet Earth. One of the rules was that we wouldn't be able to remember from lifetime to lifetime. That's not true with a lot of other races. There's a lot of things that took place here on planet Earth having to do with the free choice planet. Now, we've eliminated a lot of our own free choice, but we're the ones that created those systems. We're the ones that created a whole bunch of systems that will keep us in a lower vibration. Those systems are the ones that move the least.
So you're convinced that we are going to get our act together and we are going to create something new, something more equitable. Is that something that the group has told you is going to happen?
Number one, I'm an internal optimist. So part of it is I'm always looking for the positive things of these things. Now, the question is, it's a pendulum. How far does that pendulum need to be pulled? Where is that marker? You know, we had this same situation happen back post or pre-World War II. We had with Henry Ford, we've had a lot of things that took place that were really interesting. Henry Ford was trying to basically get rid of democracy and bring in a strong authoritarian leader. He wrote books about it. He did radio shows about it. He did a radio show for himself almost a year and a half, just putting out this information. He wrote a book with his wife. That book was picked up by Adolf Hitler. And Adolf Hitler actually mentions Henry Ford as one of his instigators of all this information. He mentions him in Mein Kampf by name. So we had these things going all in one direction. What changed it? Well, the event was we were attacked by World War II. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Everything changed. We instantly switched. You know, we used to be very freaked out about communism. And we go after the communists and be able to bring them for the same thing with witchcraft earlier on in history. So what was that one point where somebody said something to somebody else and the whole tide changed? That's what we're looking for. And we can create that in ourselves. We can create that in a higher vibration, in a 5th dimensional vibration. It takes time to bring it down here and to influence things. But the more of us that carry it, we will hit a critical mass where we just want to talk to each other. We just want to communicate.
Do we have to work on ourselves in order to raise our frequency to that level, or is it going to happen regardless?
No, we need to work. We need to do the work. And it's very easy to hide. It's very easy to think that we're protecting ourselves and simply hiding and not playing this game, or, oh, the whole world's going crazy. I'm going to get off. I'm not going to play this game. Very easy to do that, which means that you're locking yourself into a 3rd dimensional reality. When the 5th dimension is right here, things work differently. Things are freer. Things are easier to do, but it's going to mean that step. And that step is difficult for people to take. It hasn't become popular yet. It will.
Do you suspect or wish, hope, think that this one thing that we're looking for that's going to shift everything might have something to do with our galactic friends revealing themselves.
I hope so. That has not been indicated to me yet. We are doing some interesting things. Recently, the group put out a whole message about opening up portals on this planet. They called them stargates. They basically said that we're actually doing some interesting things at CERN, which is the underground research facility. The LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. They're basically saying it's putting out waves in an energy that we don't know. And they went offline for a while to do repairs and so forth. They came back on April 22nd, which was not that long ago. And they've been sending out these signals in the meantime through something. They originally thought it was magnetic signals. It's not magnetism, but we don't know much about our reality. The reality is that we've got something called dark energy, dark matter. That simply means we don't know what it is. The group talked about this back in 2000 when we first put out our first book. They called it the universal energy, and that waves can be created through that universal energy. CERN has been sending out these waves to the universe, getting other entities' attention. Those that are high enough in technology to be able to visit are watching Earth like crazy right now.
Well, that could go two ways, couldn't it?
I'm very hopeful that they will reveal themselves, that they'll share a little bit of information about our history, but it threatens a lot of people. It's going to threaten almost every religion we have out there if they do that. So they're going to move very slowly. They're not here to change our game. They're here, first of all, to work with the Earth and to try and get her to move through this next level. And they're being successful with it so far. I don't think we're going to see immediate results. We're still stepping into the hottest summer that's ever been on record. We're still setting into incredible amounts of tornadoes that are hitting the United States. We're going to see a massive year this year of more hurricanes and basically the Earth acting up. We'll also see it in eruptions of volcanoes, things of that nature. She's reaching this thing that was told in the Bible of the birth pangs of a mother with child, starting to increase on different levels. But that doesn't mean we're doomed to it. That means we can change it. And the more that we can step into a higher vibration, just on our own personal basis, to be freer, to feel more comfort about being a human, all those things will change our world around us. And that's what we're hopeful for.
When you look back over the last 25 years or so, and you think about your first two books, Remember and Welcome Home, you said that the group gave information there about universal energy. You had no idea what that was. It's taken all this time to really understand that. Do you think that the information that you shared in those books was right for that time? Or do you think that, there's so much has happened since then? Do you ever wish that you could have had a spyglass on the future and been able to share then what's happening now?
They nailed most of it. They talked about things that when I reread that book, which I've been doing a little bit myself, it is right on target for today. It's really a strange thing. And we didn't make a lot of predictions in that book about where humanity was going, what was taking place. Those things came later. But in that book, they gave tools. They gave tools to the awakening light worker. They gave us ideas and concepts that we could take that would absolutely empower us. And I also had a really good editor on that book, Sandy Sudra.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Okay. But we don't go into advertising. But are you proud of what you've done with your organization since you woke up? I mean, do you see this as the mission that you came here with?
Without a doubt. That mission is evolving. Obviously, it's evolved from the days when I used to write a monthly meditation that I would put out. It's evolved. I still do that, but it's basically I've been in the Sedona Journal of Emergence for the last 20 years. So it's been accepted in different parts of the world really well. I'm very proud of the work we've done. A lot of our students have been with us for 20 years. That says a tremendous amount. So we've had a lot of people that have been with us that have basically not only grown with us because the information evolves. It's not a simple course that you take. This is more updated material that we provide on a regular basis. So that's really it, and I'm very proud of it. Absolutely.
Well, as we close, one last question. So you are confident, hopeful, optimistic that humanity is going to make it, that we are going to reverse this tide of hatred and violence and division, and we will find a better way.
I do believe that is not only possible, I think that's where we're heading. We do have to have that catalyst. We do have to have that impetus of change. We do have to have that change of direction, so forth. And it's quietly building right now. It's quietly building right now.
Well, I think, you know, you've said it before that the ultimate answer is, you know, it begins with us.
That's it.
Yeah. Steve Rother, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sandy.
For more information about Steve Rother, the group, their work, books, events, classes and courses, visit espavo.org, where you can take advantage of a number of free events and also download some books for free. That's it for this week. All episodes of this show are available as podcasts on the Om Times website, all the major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, you name it. So do look for that there. That's it. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer. Thanks for being with me today. I'll be back with another edition of What is Going On at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you again to Steve Rother.
Espavo.